Hello everyone, it's John from Brisbane, and today I'm going to waffle about my Dungeons and Dragons group. Well, we're having our second meetup tomorrow, and I think the first session went quite well. You can read my blog. It was interesting actually. I thought, from a DM's perspective, I thought I'll just write cap notes about what happened. And before I knew it, I think I was 6 A4 pages later. And I think I've mentioned it before, whether or not I've posted it here, because once again, I'm an old man. My capacity to remember what I've done tends to disappear. So whether or not I've done it as a YouTube or I've done it as a written blog, who knows? But I enjoy the written narrative, and that's where I find so much fun. And but yeah, so I wrote a 6-page narrative about what the players had done in their first encounter, where they met each other and they have moved on. So this next encounter, which is tomorrow, is going to be them chasing down their, the druids, because it's essentially the adventure is at this stage focused around the druid who is having to reclaim these henge stones that have been desecrated, and he's got to find the focusing crystals that are within each of the 12 that form this warding pact, shall we call it. Anyway, so I've got that happening, and I've got a new person joining the group, which is really, really good. So we've got 5, which means that if I have somebody who isn't able to attend, well, that keeps sort of a balance of 4. I find 4 is a really, really good, I prefer 4 players. If you start to get more than that, I know some people go to 6, and I tend to find 6 is just too unwieldy, because you tend to find that there's a person who becomes too, sometimes you get people who are too dominant, and if you don't have a game master who can manage group dynamics, you'll find people get bored, and they'll just sit there and they'll just, and unless you're a really good game master and keep on top of things, things will, you'll find that they'll leave, which is not what you really want, because you tend to find that the people that you've assembled to become part of your group are people that you know and they're your friends. So you really don't want them to leave, because that's how you lose people. And I've only started to reacquire, it's maybe not the best way to put it, but I've only just started to get back to having groups of friends again, and for me that's something that I don't want to lose. That's very important for me. And really, as an older person, that's something that's really critical for a lot of people, is that being alone is, sorry, I've just got my dogs come in, and I've got stuff sitting on the chair where he likes to come and sit next to Dad. So he's currently having a bit of a hissy fit that he can't sit next to me. Sorry. So, but that's it. The older that you get, you're wanting to keep that social interaction going, and certainly role-playing is a wonderful way to do it. And as I think I've mentioned many times, is that social isolation, the older you get, is prevalent. It really is, and it's not something that you want to happen. So anyway, all right, so my group meets tomorrow. Got a new player coming, and I'm just really, really having a lot of fun. So I've once again, I'm a man of handwritten notes, and everything's nicely all written up. Not that anybody ever watches my stuff, so it doesn't really matter if they see it. Yes, nobody can read my chicken scrawl except me. It was pension day yesterday, so my my wife and I bought our Christmas presents because 10 to 1 we get one more pension day before Christmas, and I'm damn sure something will happen. Always does. So anyway, it's just, we're a cursed family, I'm afraid. So I bought myself this because I'm sort of sick and tired of flicking through the DMG, the Monster Manual all the time looking for things. And I thought, oh, these are quite handy. I'll just keep the cards with me, and because I've boxed everything together, because I use the dungeon tiles, and I use a I can't remember, I think it was with the 3rd edition D&D with the miniatures, D&D miniatures. They gave you the grid section, the mat, and you'd play the game on that. Well, I got them laminated and they were just the right size. There was at one of our local chain stores called Big W, they had a whiteboard on one side and a pinboard or corkboard on the other, and it was just the right size that the laminated grid would fit on the backside on the cork. It was perfect because that meant that I had the whiteboard on one side and now the laminated grid section on the other, and I could, just a moment, I'll go find it. Right, I'm back, and this is what I'm talking about. That was everyone can probably remember that from the miniatures game. Well, that was the corkboard side, and this is the whiteboard. So it just turned out to be perfect because I was able to draw whatever on one side for whatever we were doing, and because with the tiles that you can get for the miniatures, it was just the right size. It actually meshed up perfectly because I could just lay the dungeon tiles down and all nicely, and if I needed to add anything, I could just draw it on. Obviously not on the tiles. The tiles on the tiles I've got certainly aren't admissible or usable for writing on, but it was really, really good. And once again, I've seen some people who've got massive flipping dungeon layouts, and it's nice, but again, it's why, you know. Oh, sorry, Pippi. Sorry, that was my dog complaining about why I'm playing up here. Sorry, here he is. Hello, you've been outside, have you? What you been doing? Oh, you're wet. Been digging up. Yeah, no, this is my little man. Hey? What you been doing? Been good? Yes. He knows I'm not going to be home. He knows I'm not going to be home tomorrow. He can sense these things and he gets upset. So it means he's got to spend the day with my wife. And my wife doesn't give him the attention that he likes. So, of course, when I come home, then he gets really, really cranky, shall we say. But no, so with my dungeons, I tend to, because I've been collecting D&D for so long, it's ridiculous. But you know, I've been accessing all my old, well, that's not quite so old, that's 3.5 or whatever it is, and all my old, going right back to the original early days of D&D, because you know, you just use some old maps, or I've been using some of the villages from some of the other stuff, or even the old Judges Guild stuff. You know, there's so much out there. You know, it's why reinvent the wheel when you can go pinch somebody else's idea and just meld it into your own universe. You know, I can create my own, which is what I do for the majority of stuff. But sometimes it's just as easy to just look up and find, well, that saves me having to do a lot. But yeah, but what was one of the other things was, you know, I was looking for puzzles and stuff, and I was in my local bookshop, retail bookshop, and there was a book here for puzzle quests, and it was an Arthurian style one, and I thought, oh well, that was good. That was medieval style, which sort of fit nicely into the Dungeons and Dragons universe, so that allowed me to do that. So anyway, that's where I stand. Tomorrow, session 2 for my D&D people, so I'm looking forward to that, and I hope everybody else you know, I really hope that people who have social anxiety, certainly those who have depression, I hope that you can find somebody out there who's willing to accept you and take you in as a group, and that you can find somebody who will, for role playing, because you know, it is a good experience with helping people with social interaction. You know, that's why I like board games. And that, you know, I used to be primarily a figure gamer, but you're only playing one-on-one. Where with board games, and certainly with role-playing games, you're mixing with a larger group of people. And for me, that's a far better form of social interaction than a one-on-one. But anyway, I'll post later on. There'll be a blog, obviously. I'll do a blog update of what my group does tomorrow. So, yeah, that's just me waffling on. Look, thank you very much, anybody who watches and listens to what I gamble on about. So till next time, signing off, the Honourable John.